Before I begin, two things. One, we're brought to you by the best thing in the world. Two, spoilers are coming. So, go away if no spoiler, right? Hey, I'm Soul. But as far as Warcraft's concerned, my name's Champion. 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 Warlords of Draenor gave us a promotion, calling us Commander. But for the most part, we're basically called Champion. Now, I see why we get called this generic name. You got 12 classes. And when it comes to audio creation, it's easier to just refer to us as some generic thing, like Champion. But this name is getting really old. It's already 11 years old. I figure that by now we could, at the very least, be called by our class name. Now, when creating this audio stuff, you usually have a certain number of lines that make up a single file, such as this. Come over here, Champion, and lick my balls. Yeah, cute. Instead, let's break that up into two pieces. One piece is to reference the class that we're playing at the time, and the other is the rest of the audio. So here's the example again. Paladin, come lick my balls. Warlock, come lick my balls. Hunter, come lick my balls. Mage, come lick my balls. See? Easy. Now, never mind the fact that you have to say each class name like 50 to 100 different ways, and that this wouldn't work for like pre-rendered cinematics, but, good enough. So do that. Do something like that, and we'll be happy. But there's a bigger problem that this whole champion commander thing created. In Legion, we're going to become a class leader who's going to lead a class hall. As a paladin, I'm going to be working with famous paladin people. Close associates and that sort of thing. I know that I've come a pretty long way from where I was at level 1, but I'm a little worried about this whole rise to power thing that I've been doing for the past 11 or so years, even if it makes sense given all the accomplishments that I've done. Back when Warlords of Draenor was first announced, many players were pretty stoked about being promoted to Commander and having control of their own garrison. See, we thought it'd be pretty awesome to know that our past victories and accomplishments gave us some meaningful recognition within our faction. A year or so later, well, yeah. Even from the start, there were players who were pretty dismissive about this promotion. They didn't want to be in charge of shit. They didn't care for base building, or command tabling, or shipyarding, or any of that commandery kind of stuff. And there was this growing fear that we'll keep getting promoted further and further and further until eventually we're asked to lead the fucking Pantheon against whatever. It sounds silly, and it is, but let's think about it. At what point have our characters done anything wrong, and pay the consequences for it? Let's put aside the whole video game aspect of WoW and just take a look at this from a story standpoint. So my paladin, my blood elf paladin, started off in Sunstrider Isle, all the way in like the buttfuck of the world. If he wanted to, if he really, really wanted to, he could have just stayed there and got high off of monoworms for the rest of his life. But he didn't. Instead, he went out into the unknown and became a part of everything that's happened in Azeroth. And Outland. And past Outland. But there's no real story about him, even though he drives the world stage in a really big way. The closest bad thing that I can think of is Grizzly Hills, where we start off helping some troll guy named Drakuru in the zone, only to inadvertently help him serve the Lich King by the time we finish Draktheron Keep. But one zone later in Zul'Drak, we fuck him up, and then we're all gravy. So the problem with our character is that they do not waver, they don't doubt, they don't consider their actions, they don't fail, they don't get corrupted, and that's boring. Regardless of your opinions of the Warcraft story overall, there are elements where characters grow, endure hardships, and even fall from grace. We have Arthas, who endured whatever childhood that he had, but he learned to do what he thought was right, and follow that all the way to becoming the Lich King. There's Illidan's good guy to bad guy to anti-hero to bad guy to whatever he's doing now. There's Thrall's story, the rise of fucking Green Jesus, who's trying to do the right thing for his people and his faction, but probably fucking everything up in the long run. And there's Garrosh, who discovered his pride and rode that to his grave. And that was Thrall's fault too. But throughout all this, there's Soul, the fucking champion, who leaves a mountain of corpses in his wake. Of course, there's a counter-argument for this, because this is a game. We as players are just a device that drives the story, and the character development is left to what's written for the named heroes and heroines that we're all familiar with. Putting our characters in a situation where they don't feel good about themselves makes for this divided experience, especially when it comes to an online game. However, after commanding a garrison and then now leading our class, it's going to get harder and harder to top that. And it's a huge problem that there's no depth to us other than our accomplishments. I think this is something that's becoming a concern for Blizzard as well, and if not, well, whatever. But after a certain point, there needs to be, like, something that needs to be injected into the narrative. Otherwise, it's the same old song of getting the bad guy because, well, it was the right thing to do, because the quest thing told me to. We, as characters, need to be demoted. We have to say farewell to the champion. It could happen in this expansion, but it'd be pretty delicate. If we're going to have our characters really fuck something up, it probably shouldn't be in Legion's main storyline, because the result will be everyone dying. And that'd be a bit much. So, as another reminder, 1, coffee. 2, spoilers. Go away. Go away. So I'm going to make up a really juicy subplot that stems from some really cool theories that are going around, which is based on limited information that's been revealed in the alpha. I'm not in the alpha yet, by the way. Fucking come on, man. So, Varian, King of Stormwind, dead. Sylvanas, presumed murderer. Genn Greymane is convinced that it's her based on evidence that he found. And Vol'jin is missing again. So what the fuck? Unless there's a cinematic with Sylvanas going BOOM! Long live the king, dude! Odds are good that we players will have to verify for sure what had happened and get some justice done. Like I said, there are theories around, and I have my own, but it's going to fit this narrative that I'm building of doing something questionable, maybe even falling out of favor with our faction. And we'll move from there. So we saw the opening cinematic, and things were looking kind of bad already. But what the hell happened that left Varian dead, Vol'jin missing, and Sylvanas and Greymane at each other's throats? My theory? Khadgar happened. So somehow Khadgar became like semi-possessed. Okay, maybe not like Arthas putting on his helmet or listening to old gods day in and day out like Neltharion did. So he doesn't realize his own actions, but he is being used somehow to orchestrate this whole destabilization between the Alliance and the Horde. So Khadgar is basically being used as an assassin. He got Varian, but not Vol'jin. Vol'jin managed to evade the assassination and now he's in hiding. Surprise, surprise. Or maybe Vol'jin didn't do it alone. Maybe Rathian had a hand in all of this. So based on this, we have a weakened Horde and Alliance, and we haven't even started trying to save the world yet. It's like Cataclysm. We've set a tone for the Alliance and Horde being at each other's throats during a major conflict. Greymane is going to push for war. Sylvanas, who's now War Chief for some reason, is going to claim her innocence and try to find Vol'jin because she knows she didn't do it. What the hell's going on? In the meantime, Khadgar is going to generally do his best to defuse the situation and help you, because of course you're going to help. Horde players are going to investigate what actually happened. Alliance players are going to set up a case to try and charge Sylvanas for war crimes or something like that. This quest is going to stretch throughout the entire expansion, and focus primarily on who should we trust. Eventually, players will be led to Rathian, who reveals that he's kept Vol'jin hidden from everyone for safety while he's been conducting his own investigation. He has his list of suspects, but we don't want to further the risk of war. This is going to be a really covert operation, just you and him. So we dig and look for the truth, whether or not the leaders of the Horde and Alliance even want it. In some ways, we even go behind their backs to find any evidence of foul play. Eventually, we prove that Sylvanas is in fact innocent. Heck, we even beat back the Legion, close the portal, and defeat the last boss. Yay! But we still haven't tied up this loose end. Throughout the expansion, you've been trying to find the culprit, but now we're out of options. So there's only one thing left to do. We have to use Vol'jin as bait. The player, Rathian, and even Anduin comes along. You guys meet up. Vol'jin is finally set free, and all of a sudden Khadgar appears with this, possessed fixation on killing him. Now there's going to be a really cool and flashy fight, but with Rathian's help, you bring Khadgar to his knees. Finally realizing what's going on, Khadgar tells you to finish him off before he becomes the next Gul'dan. There's no time for a cure, and there's no miracle cameo cinematic thing that's going to make things right. Vol'jin and Anduin watch as you put Khadgar down. There's no loot, there's no quest reward. Vol'jin just asks, "What have you done, Mon?" And Anduin's heartbroken that even Khadgar was corrupted, but he's pretty damn upset that you and Rathian didn't tell anyone about this, even questioning what your actual motives are. So we go to a final scene, Khadgar's burial. Depending on the faction you play, Vol'jin or Anduin will speak of Khadgar's bravery and so on, and even solving Varian's murder while saving Vol'jin from an extremely cunning agent of the Legion at the cost of his life. Of course they lied. It's better that Khadgar's death isn't marred by corruption like so many others have fell to. Meanwhile, the player just snakes away into the background. This ends with a side conversation with the king or the war chief. We're told that for many years we served our factions with pride, but they're no longer sure if the influence of the Black Dragons has clouded our judgment. Going forward, we're not to be called to the front as we always have been. The class hall is going to be run by someone else, and our role as champion is over. Yeah, so that's my overly thought out theory. Now, assuming the artifact system isn't going to be in place after Legion, we'll probably hang our weapon up in some cool altar-like thing or in our class hall, something like that. And I don't know, pick up a eye level 1000 thing in its place. My hope is that the future expansion will give us a really fresh adventure, something that's scaled down from demon fighting and, up, but focus inward, focus on some self-discovery, and try to build a story behind the characters that we enjoy playing so much. And that's it. I hope you guys like my theory, and I'll see you next time. Stay breezy.